Welcome to the Big Book Roundtable of the RICO 12 family of recovery resources targeted at people from all backgrounds, faiths, and places dealing with addictions of all varieties. We're grateful to be here as a resource to all of you and everyone out there. I'm Justin B., a child of an all-powerful and all-loving God and a multidisciplinary addict living in miraculous recovery, and am blessed to be the moderator of this roundtable. I'm joined today by David G. and Nikki M., my typical and always faithful panelists around this virtual roundtable from all over North America, and we're grateful to do this together. Quickly, let's have David jump in and introduce himself, and then we'll go to Nikki to have her introduce herself.
Hey, everybody. My name is David G. from Oklahoma. I'm an alcoholic, addict of many sorts. Justin, thank you so much for your service here, and I'm grateful to have been in the rooms of recovery for 30 years now. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Nikki, how about you? Talk to us or introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Nikki M., and I'm a grateful member of many fellowships, and I'm a grateful, like you said, a participant of this roundtable, which is just growing my effectiveness and understanding of myself, this program, and even of my fellows like you. I'm really needing this roundtable this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, David. I'm always grateful to be around this table with you, with each of you. And today I look forward to diving deeper into the chapter We Agnostics, where we left off last time. We'll be picking up on page 48 in the paragraph that starts with "The reader may still ask," but an invitation to each of you out there in the listening audience to get your 4th edition of your big book out, get a highlighter, a pen, some paper to take notes, so that as we dive deep into this reading, we can each gain something that will be helpful in our own lives and as we work with others working our 12th step. All right, let's get into the reading. The reader may still ask why he should believe in a power greater than himself. We think there are good reasons. Let us have a look at some of them. The practical individual of today is a stickler for facts and results. Nevertheless, the 20th century readily accepts theories of all kinds, provided they are firmly grounded in fact. We have numerous theories, for example, about electricity. Everybody believes them without a murmur of doubt. Why this ready acceptance? Simply because it is impossible to explain what we see, feel, direct, and use without a reasonable assumption as a starting point. Everybody nowadays believes in scores of assumptions for which there is good evidence, but no perfect visual proof. And does not science demonstrate that visual proof is the weakest proof? It is being constantly revealed as mankind studies the material world that outward appearances are not inward reality at all. To illustrate, the prosaic steel girder is a mass of electrons whirling around each other at incredible speed. These tiny bodies are governed by precise laws, and these laws hold true throughout the material world. Science tells us so. We have no reason to doubt it. When, however, the perfectly logical assumption is suggested that underneath the material world and life as we see it, there is an all-powerful, guiding, creative intelligence, right there our perverse streak comes to the surface, and we laboriously set out to convince ourselves it isn't so. We read wordy books and indulge in windy arguments, thinking we believe this universe needs no God to explain it. Were our contentions true, it would follow that life originated out of nothing, means nothing, and proceeds nowhere. Instead of regarding ourselves as intelligent agents, spearheads of God's ever-advancing creation, we agnostics and atheists chose to believe that our human intelligence was the last word, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and end of all. Rather vain of us, wasn't it? All right, as we read into this and dive into this, yes, the science verbiage and everything is from the 1930s. This is nearly 100 years old, but the truths are there. And, we can take these same things and say, hey, yeah, I can look at electricity now and understand it a little bit better than they did now. But for me, for example, cell phones are how do those work? Well, I don't know, but they work. So let's dive into this, David. As we read through that, what are some of the things that you'd like to dive deeper on and explain more and share your experience, strength, and hope?
Yeah, of course, Justin. This is a very powerful part of the book. It's talking to me about not coming to believe in God, but come to believe in the ideas, concepts, and beliefs I've had about God. Are those working in my life? Have they been working? Am I continuing to relapse and live a life of destruction? Or am I living content, happy, joyous, and free in the, in the recovery process, the way it's outlined here in the book? It's a great read, and it took me so long to understand that this is what it's trying to get us to do. In the first 3 chapters, we've seen how the thoughts and the ideas and the beliefs is what set these men up for failure over and over and over. And as I look at that example in my own life, I'm definitely going to have to come to believe that something greater than self can restore me to sanity. And I love, and I've mentioned this before, the step says we come to believe that a power. It doesn't say we come to believe in a power. Hell, most of us have already came here believing in something. But the question becomes, how has that worked out? And am I willing to change those beliefs? Not change God. Hell, that's impossible for me. But for me to change my conception, my idea about God, so I can have a new experience. So the book, and you started, said the reader still may ask, well, hell, it took a minute for me to realize the reader is me. Why he should believe in a power greater than himself. We think there's some good reasons. Let's have a look. And that's what I needed to do. And we had a look at that exercise on page 47 of the book. If you've done that, then you've looked at the things that we had prejudiced about. We're going to see some more of them in this read that you did here just a minute ago. So we're a stickler for facts and results, the book says. I don't really care much about the opinion of religion, of science, of any of that stuff. I want to know the facts. And the fact of the matter is, I'm dying inside of the rooms from untreated alcoholism with many years of sobriety, hiding behind that badge, talking about how wonderful life is and this and this. And that same night, I'm in bed with somebody other than my wife. And, in my job, I'm cheating, I'm lying, I'm taking shortcuts, and I'm doing all of these things, So those were the facts based on the beliefs that I had. Still, nevertheless, I come to the rooms and talk about how wonderful my life is, what God's doing in it, and how if you'll get sober and follow this path, you'll be okay. And shit, I'm dying. I'm not a very good example of the facts, and the results show that. So I love what it says. Nevertheless, the 20th century readily accepts theories. That's the key word, theories of all kinds, not facts, theories. It says, provided they are firmly grounded in fact, and usually they are not. We have these theories about electricity. Hell, I can go over there and turn that light switch on. I guarantee you, I never even think whether the light's going to come on. I just know it is. Hell, I got faith in that. It's the way it is. I sit down in the chair. I don't wonder if it's going to fall to the damn ground. I have faith. So for me to come in the rooms and say I don't have any faith at all is a lie. Hell, I've had faith all along. I just had it channeled in the wrong direction. I had faith that every time I cracked the lid on that quart gallon of whiskey, something was about to happen. I had faith in that. Anytime that I turned on the internet, I knew that there was going to be a result from that. So for me to say that I never had any faith until I went through this, that's not true. I've had a hell of a lot of theories, and I've had a lot of faith that sent me in the wrong direction. And really, that's what this is trying to show us, is that we can channel our faith in a different direction, change our beliefs, not about God, but about our conceptions and beliefs in God. We're going to come to find out in this chapter, we've been serving a God, all right, but it's not the God of spirit, it's the God of self. And they're going to call it the God of reason with a capital R. And we're going to see that coming up pretty soon. So it says it's impossible to explain what we see, feel, and direct. See, that's what we want to, me anyway, that's what I want to base everything off of, is what I can see, what I can feel. But I really use a reasonable assumption as a starting point. Step 1, plus willing to believe equals reasonable assumption. That's just the way it is. And so assumption is something, if you look up that word, it's just accepted as true. And so outward appearances are not inward reality at all. Oh my God. Why can I not see that? Because I'm spiritually asleep. It's going to take an awakening for me to look inwardly to see any kind of reality at all. See, I keep thinking my problem's out here. I think my problem is you. I get into inventory. I find out, hell, it's not you, it's me. I think my problem is booze. I quit drinking booze, my problem pile up. I think it's drugs. I quit doing drugs, they pile up. I start acting out. I quit acting out. My problems still keep coming and coming and coming. So outward appearances are not inward reality at all. So he gives the example of a steel girder. And if anybody ever wonders what that is, that's a main support beam in a big, huge building that runs off of a lot of other little beams. That's all that is. And the prosaic, all that word means is lacking beauty. So that tells me it's an ugly ass support beam that's pretty weak if you get to looking at the molecules on the inside of it. It's pretty weak. Let lightning hit it. I cruised by a big DC down in Texas the other day that lightning had hit, and I guarantee you, those steel girders, they were no good. They didn't hold it together. And that's how my life was. Every time a storm would hit, man, I'd fall apart. And so the book says we have no reason to doubt all of this stuff. But when, however, the perfectly logical assumption, and remember that's accepted as true, is suggested underneath the material world as we see it, there's the problem. It's as I see it. Then an all-powerful guiding, here's some more of those spiritual terms that we were looking at over on page 47, when and if you ever do that exercise. Well, right there are perverse. That word just means unacceptable behavior. Street comes to the surface, and we laboriously set out. That word just means lots of effort. I put in a lot of effort to convince myself that it isn't so. I read wordy books like the big book. Hell, I knew it inside and out for years, could never live by it. But hell, I knew it. Just ask me. Indulge in windy arguments. I'd argue with anybody about the book. Didn't matter what it was. But the key word is right here, thinking. Thinking we believe this universe needs no God to explain. And when I think like that, I can promise you my life is going to support that. That is an inward reality based on, that's an outward appearance based on a screwed up inward reality. So were contentions, that word just means heated disagreement, were true, it followed that life originated out of nothing, means nothing, and proceeds nowhere. Hell, if that's the truth, then there's no hope for any of us. It's kind of like if you're the problem, there's no hope for me. If booze is the problem, I don't have any chance. But see, it's not. Self is the problem. The God of reason, that's the problem. Beliefs, thoughts, ideas, concepts, that's the problem. That's what I have to recover from in here. And once that changes, my outer circumstances automatically change because I don't think and believe that way anymore. So I don't act that way. I don't safely believe I can take a drink anymore. So I've been sober for 30 years. I don't safely believe safely that I can use drugs anymore. So I've been clean for 30 years. It's been a little more difficult whenever it comes to lust and acting out. That's been another beast there. But I have found recovery from that. And so I love what you read, and I'll end with this. Ever advancing. God's ever advancing. If it's ever advancing, it can be never ending. It just can't. You ever listen to Snoopy or read about Snoopy? That's the most spiritual dog that ever lived. Shit, I wanted him for a sponsor. He was sitting on the edge of the cliff with Charlie Brown one day, and Charlie looked over at him real sad and said, Snoopy, one day we're all going to die. And Snoop looked back at him and said, yeah, but all the other days we're going to live. And it's the same thing here. It's never ending. It's ever advancing. Either I'm advancing with it or I'm ending, one of the two. But it's going to be my call. So we agnostic atheists look at these three words: chose to believe. See, I might not have a choice whether I act out or drink. I've lost the power to choose on that, but I do have a choice over here. And I can choose to believe that my human intelligence is the last word. And if I make that choice and I continue with that belief, it's going to be a bad ending. I know it. Alpha and Omega, the first and final, beginning of end, rather vain of us. And that word vain, look that up, that means useless, rather useless of us, wasn't it? That's how my life was before this process. It's not that way today, man. I have a great life. I have a beautiful marriage, grandchildren here this morning with me, having fun all day. Man, it's going to be a great day. I'm loving life. I'm loving what we do, man. And it's all because my beliefs changed. So Justin, thank you for calling on me. Good to be here.
Thank you, David. And thank you for diving so deep into that. That's opened up a lot of new things for me. Nikki, what's your take from what we've read? What do you pull from that?
Well, I just want to extend gratitude, number one, that you called David first, because I really need to have that spoken over me. And I'm just so grateful because it's just one of those days. that I need you guys. Okay. And no, I'm not a singer. I'm just a weirdo. So let's start here. I mean, the reader, yes, me. I ask, why do I need to believe in this power? Because I had a really good sponsor that showed me I'm beyond human aid. See, I need to believe in this power because I have nowhere else to go. Like today, there's some things on me in the world, and I have nowhere else to go but here. It says that we read in the final analysis. We're going to read, I think, in a couple pages of final analysis. So I know why I need to believe in this power, because there's nowhere I'm beyond. My line out says I'm beyond human aid. There's just nowhere else for Nikki to go except death, because I've been living insane. And I love this part here because, when it says, we accept theories of all kinds, and David just went into so many details. So I'm not going to go over what, he's my sponsor. I've learned so much today. I always do. But my line out says the example of the earth. Recently, again, I always mention we're coming out of COVID. I don't have a job. I've had a lot of time. I have a little grocery money job, but that doesn't really count of a 40-hour work week like I used to do, if not 50 hours. So I've had time to really look at all kinds of theories, and I've looked at about the earth. And so, I've accepted numerous theories that there's a round earth, but recently I swept away, because the book we're going to read soon. It's going to ask us to sweep away all prejudice, to think honestly, and to search diligently. And they ask us to do that about these concepts about God, this idea of this power. But I've been doing it with everything that I've ever been taught. Everything that I have ever been taught, I've swept away. So yes, they say, Nikki, that's an outside issue. No, I'm using it as an example of my experience, strength, and hope, that I believe that the earth is flat after sweeping away all these things, these scores of assumptions. And I love where it says, there's no perfect visual proof. I've never had perfect visual proof that the earth is round. So how can there, I've swept away so much that, yes, I believe that there is the most powerful God in the universe. And that did not happen overnight for me, you guys. I'm in year 12 of this program. I'm just waking up. Year 4, I was going to kill myself in the rooms. And now in year 12, I'm just waking up to the possibility that, yes, anything I think in my thought life can happen, good or bad. And I love this here, how David said, because I have it highlighted, these outward appearances are not inward realities at all. See, what I see is not really real because I'm dead asleep. I love the example of the Matrix. I've taken the pill. I'm wide awake in this reality, because when COVID hit and I lost my job and I'm used to this reality, and my mom looked at me, she's a pensioner. She's like, what are you going to do? What's going to happen? Like in absolute blacked out fear, not blackout drunkenness, blackout fear, couldn't see straight. And I had to look at her and I just said, God. I just said, God's going to handle this. And since then, my mortgage has been paid off. So I really don't need a job. I mean, this is really the reality. And I accept my book. That's another thing here I want to say, because, David went through what all these words mean. And I have a lot of these definitions too in my book, and lines out and all these things. David did such a great job, but I love my experience, strength, and hope on this part, and it says, I accept it when it says all powerful, guiding, creative intelligence. I believe that. And I spent a lot of time arguing that perverse streak, that, where I'm unreasonable. And I take a lot of time, laborious effort, to convince everybody, no, this is how it is. Because I like to play God. I know everything. My arrogance is huge because, God did this to me. No, Nikki, God didn't do this to me, because I've done a thorough step 4 and I did it to myself. So I have to come in here, and you guys know me at the table, and I live here on page 49. I believe my book. And when it tells me to regard myself, and that's every day. See, I need to read this today because I woke up to some things on me, but I also woke up to some miracles, like someone inviting me to the Janet Jackson concert who has a free ticket. I mean, this is God doing for me what I cannot do for myself constantly, because I believe myself to be an intelligent agent spearhead. I am an intelligent agent spearhead. You know, when you go to the doctor's office or you go and you fill a job application, I write that. When they say occupation, I write down intelligent agent spearhead. Now, if people are really, most people ignore it. Some people are fun and go, what does that mean? Servant of God. What does that mean? And I go deeper and deeper into this. And then I'm a spearhead of what? Of God's ever advancing. This creation, I can never stop learning. That's why in my book, a lot of the time my lines out say, every day I need a spiritual awakening. Every day I need a spiritual experience. Every day I need to regard myself as this, or I won't make it. And my line out says vain too, where it says useless, I should say, where I wrote useless, because a lot of people think vain. Remember, I'm a retired burlesque entertainer and I sponsor a lot of beautiful women. And they think vain means, you know, looking good, walking around. No, that means I'm useless. I'm useless if I don't regard myself as an intelligent agent spearhead of God's ever advancing creation. So I have to live here every day. Does that mean that I'm a better than anybody? No. Does that mean I'm below? No. I just know that I am this. And it's there for everyone too. See, everyone too can have this power. Everyone too can walk around as this intelligent agent. A lot of people, as David said, are still asleep. And myself, I'm just waking up. So please, if you're hearing this and you're listening to this podcast, do not leave the rooms, because there's magic waiting for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. And I'll come back to you here a little bit to dive a little deeper on that intelligent agent spearhead of God's ever advancing creation. But first, I want to ask David a quick question. You know, how do you keep that that attitude of curiosity to find truth as truth continues to evolve and grow? Like my understanding, the ever advancing nature of truth. How do you keep that curiosity of diving into truth, you know, like I said, as it continues to expand, and not just get complacent with, oh, I know enough at this point?
Well, I think whenever I discovered the true nature of the lie and how many forms that it comes in, then my passion was to learn the truth about more and more of that. I've always had a deep passion for an understanding of the big book. But I think it's went beyond that in the last 5 years. I think it's really to the point now to where I just continually have a passion to learn more about this power and its ways, because I've experienced it in my life through these 12 steps as outlined in the big book. And basically, it wasn't until after step 5, even during the inventory process of writing, the lie was still doing a lot of the writing, even though I didn't know it. And it wasn't until, you know, I spoke it from my own voice and someone asked me, is that really true, David? Is that really true? Then I began to see that how strong the lie is and how it comes to me through my emotions. And I discovered that in the third column of resentment inventory. And the way that we do it over here is pretty deep. And one of the questions, see, we don't just write pride and selfishness and stuff like that or check a box. What we do is we give short definitions of what that means. And I have a sheet. I have a template on all that. But there's 2 questions that we asked whenever I look at pride and self-esteem and all this stuff. What did I do when I find myself in that situation, or what do I do? And if I can honestly answer those 2 questions, then I've discovered how the lie talks to me. It says self-manifested in various ways is what had defeated. Well, the various ways is through my emotions, my thoughts, and my concepts. So once I see that, to answer your question, then I want deeper truths about the spirit, because that's the only thing that will overcome the lie. And so when our book says it's an effort to discover the truth about the stock and trade, for a long time, my question was, the truth about what? What's the truth about the lie? And if I'm effortlessly seeking truth instead of the lie, then that's going to remain constant in my life. And that's been my experience. That's what I want to know today. If there's a listener on here that hears something that I say and doesn't agree, your sponsor's told you something else, what I want you to know is that your sponsor's right. You listen to your sponsor. And I was told that from the very beginning. David, you're not the Alpha, the Omega. You are not the man. I've done that for so long, but There's one who has all power, and that's the one I'm seeking. So my curiosity, I guess, started in the early 90s when I got into this deal. When I learned the truth about the big book, man, I took off and I've never looked back. And every year, I mean, it's just gone deeper and deeper. In fact, I just got some new information on fear inventory that absolutely blew me away. I have never done inventory like this in 30 years. All the guys that I've sponsored up to this point, they haven't done it. They're looking at it now saying, oh shit, yeah, I want some of that. So I'm happy to share that information as well, but it's life changing. It's life changing. So I don't know. It's like a drug. I guess if I was going to say one thing, it's like it's a shot of dope, but it's God dope. And man, I want more and more and more. So thanks, Justin. Glad to be here.
Thank you, David. And I look forward to diving into that fear inventory and what you've additionally learned when we get there. In fact, I'm working my step 4 right now. I'm not quite to the fear inventory, but I'm working that in depth right now in my own work with my sponsor. And I'm recognizing just how much fear is dominating my life in this process. Anyways, let's go to Nikki. The question I have for you on this, Nikki, is, one way that you said, hey, when I fill out an application or whatever, I put Spearhead, intelligent agent. And they say, well, what does that mean? Well, I'm a servant of God. Let's dive a little bit deeper. You said, let's just keep diving deeper. Go another level or two deeper. What does that mean to you to be a Spearhead, an intelligent agent, Spearhead, a servant of God? Let's go a little deeper there.
That's a great question. And wow, we could sit here all day and talk about it, but I'll just keep it simple and I'll try and keep it to big book speak, what does this mean? That means we've read it. It means page 14. This is very simple, but it's not easy, that a price has to be paid. See, I can't just think that half measures will avail me something. I'll get nothing. This is a real radical system. I've said it before. If you are listening and you are like, you're all into your Scientology, then get all the way in there. If you are into your, to your mosque, to your temple, get all the way in there. I'm finally getting all the way into this. As David just said, this is where the real God dope is. So I also see where religious people are right. And so what does it mean to be a servant? There's a really radical servant I like to follow. And he's like, he actually washes people's feet. Even though he's the king, he washes people's feet. What does that mean to be a servant? It means that I am to want nothing in return. Remember, we read that on page, I think, 18, a sincere desire to be helpful, wanting nothing in return. It's very radical. I don't want any validation. I don't want you to say, oh, Nikki, thank you. I mean, no, because the book also says that actually you are helping me more than I'm helping you. You're helping me to get out of myself. What does it mean to be a spearhead, intelligent agent, a servant of God? It means that my thought life, go deeper, means that if I tell the mountain to move, it moves. Because my thought life is placed on a higher plane. It means that nothing can touch me. And this has happened for me, Justin, because you see, it means following what other people say. I love to, I'm dramatic. Everybody, if you're listening to me, I should have been an actress, but no, that wasn't the role God had. He had a sponsor for me. But there's where religious people are right. And when people, Nikki, you're this, you're that, you're that. It's real simple. If that's what you say I am. I don't want to fight and argue back, because I gave the example earlier that I'm a flat earther. What does it look like to be a servant of God? Means my views are working for me. If your beliefs are working for you, then you believe that and you do what you need to do. But my beliefs of believing that I am a servant of God, that I'm the daughter of the king, that I'm an intelligent agent, spearhead of God's ever advancing creation, that nothing can ever touch me, that I'm all the way up, that my words matter. If I speak it, it happens. If I think it, it becomes. It's working for me. That's what I explain to people. I hope that answers the question, because here it is. It's for everybody out there. But let's go deeper. We've been programmed to believe something different. Remember, this is a program. As I give an example, and I'll leave it right here. If anybody is old enough to remember desktops when they first came out, and if, say, you called your computer guy right now and you said, my computer's broken, he's not going to say, Nikki, I'm going to fix it. He's going to say, are you crazy, lady? They don't even make this. We're going to throw this entire thing out, and we're going to get you a whole new system and program. That's what I need to do. I need to throw out all my old beliefs, my own conceptions, I don't need to go through anybody to tap this power. If I believe it, if I say it, it happens, it is, because I am the daughter of the King, says my book. He is the father, I am the child. And go deeper on this thought, everybody. What parent doesn't want their child to have all of their heart's desires? This is real mystical, magical stuff. And that's why it says many pursue it to the gates of insanity or death.
All right. Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate you diving deeper there. Let's do some real quick takeaways. I'm actually going to start off with my takeaway here. My takeaway from our stuff is that the question of, is it true? Can I know it's absolutely true? Recently, I read a book of an addict who was in recovery who built a whole way of working a inventory using those two questions. Is it true? Can I know it's absolutely true? And as I am working my own resentments, and I'm thinking, well, that person thinks this about me, or that person did that because of this, I can ask those questions. Is it true? Can I absolutely know it's true? And then I can turn it and look at myself and see where, well, I can see why they would think that way about me if it is that way, and really reflect on that. And that's a really powerful thing, asking those questions. And diving deep there. David, why don't you tell us a little bit of a takeaway that you've got from our conversation today?
Well, I love what you shared about the addict. And, I've had those questions before in my life as well. I no longer have those. My experience shows, and I think on page 49 right there, probably about the second or third sentence down, there's 6 words there. It says, we have no reason to doubt it. And if I can get to that point, then I am just okay with it. And I finally have. But for so long, there was still disconnect. Even after going through the steps, going to many meetings, working with different sponsors, there was still disconnect. And I just couldn't understand why. Until finally in 2019, somebody took me through that spiritual terms exercise and had me to challenge my own beliefs and ask myself what they really meant to me. And on the biggest part of those, I just had to say, hell, I don't know. Here I am, prejudiced, hating on something, and I don't even really know why. That doesn't even make a hell of a lot of sense whenever you begin to wake up and take a look at that. But today I have no reason to doubt it, because I've challenged those beliefs. I've held them to the light. I've seen the ones that serve me and the ones that don't. The ones that don't, they've been removed. And, I've been able to walk through that. So my takeaway today is I have no reason to doubt it. If I doubt this process in any way, then I'm not ready to do it. So that's my experience anyway. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Nikki, how about you? Takeaway from our conversation and reading today for you.
Well, thank you, everybody. And just thank you guys for just loving me unconditionally. So here it is. My takeaway is, ask yourself, why shouldn't you believe in a power greater than yourself? Because if your life is working, why are you here? I'd wonder why. If your life is so great, why are you even listening to this podcast? Because we're here. I mean, I'm here because I love it and want to be now, but I'm here because I have to be. I won't make it. I'm in the grip of a progressive illness. I'm beyond human aid. So why shouldn't I believe in a power greater than myself? When my life wasn't working before? Well, because tonight I'm going to a free Janet Jackson concert. God's doing for me really, really radical stuff. Boop, boop, we do.
Thanks, Nikki. Appreciate it. Everybody, as we're diving into this big book, and as we're sharing our experience, strength, and hope with you, we hope that you also are getting insights that you can use in your own recovery, in your own lives, and especially as you work with others to help, reflect that light that is given to you so that they can gain better understanding and better experience strength and hope in their own lives. Everybody keep coming back, dive deep into this, no half measures, get all the way in and work it, because you are worth it.